Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Wicked Art. It is Wicked here, and it's time for our Monday art lesson. And we had like a three-way tie last time I did votes last week. And one of the ones was how to draw realistically. So we're going to draw a realistic image. But since we're close to Halloween, I'm going to keep it kind of within that theme. So we're going to draw like a skull with a crow sitting on top of it. But we're going to push it to realism, okay? So the first thing when drawing realistically, if it's your first time and you're not used to drawing certain things, look up references of those things you're trying to draw and look at the shadow work and stuff like that on there. But since I've drawn enough skulls before, I'm not going to really look up any references, but I will be looking up references for crows just to see how the feathers and stuff set. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to sketch out, you know, a shape of a skull. So we want to kind of just start building it out. So I'm just kind of coming across and building the shape of a skull itself. Got to capture some of those indentations and different shapes to like the eyebrow area, things like that. So since I'm not using a reference, it may not be 1000% correct as far as like all the little features, but the realism with the shading will be there. So I am just building out different areas, and I'm going to try to keep it even by going back and forth. That way I know if I need to adjust one side or the other, then I'll be able to do that without going too like over the top. So let's come in here. I want to kind of build in the broken, separated parts of the jaw here. Not necessarily broken, but just where there's gaps. So we want that to come down to the mandible. And then up here in this area, we have like a small part that kind of curves down. Kind of goes the rest of the way into the teeth. And then that from there, we have like a gap in here. It kind of comes in and curves. And then like from behind it, there's the upper part of the maxilla that kind of curves up that way. So we're just kind of feeling it out right now. And I'm just kind of building up with line work for now, which will be completely overtaken by all the shading and stuff later. As you can see, this is why I like to go back and forth. We're going to have to make some adjustments here to the skull itself. So like down in here, I want to kind of get a little bit of the bone structure on the edge of the nose there. And what I can do is right here where I got it connected, I'm going to erase that part out. I'd use that. Okay. And then from the nose, put like a little crease in here so that we know where that brow line's curving down at. So we want a little bit of a gap on the skull. So we're gonna need to adjust some more things. Especially with like the cheekbone area. Because what I want to do is have like right here where that eye comes down, we'll have a little bit of a gap. And that in turn will come down. That kind of helps us form our cheek a little bit. Okay, and then I want to come back over here to this side of the nose here. So right down in here, we're going to see a small portion of our cheekbone. We want that to kind of run off the nose, so I may need to bring this part out more. Okay, and just have that curve up, and then it's going to come out over here. Now we got to kind of keep it even with the eyebrow there. So we have this. We don't want that. Let's not leave that too straight. Let's kind of curve that out like that. And as we come out into a bump, I'm going to make like another bump here. And then we're going to come up to that forehead. And as that goes down, we'll come back up and adjust the top of the head. So we're going to take that back and just have that kind of curve down into there. I wouldn't have had so many mistakes if we were using a reference for the skull, but just drawn enough of them to know that it's not how to do it on that. We do want the back part of the skull coming through here. Kind of have that curve out like that, so it looks like it's running behind it. And we can bring the back part of the skull right there like that. Okay, so next step, I want to kind of work in some teeth on here. So I'm just going to kind of build out the shape of them. I'm not going to be like super detailed right now. We just want to kind of get them in place. So I'm just going to continue. If you notice, I'm adding like a little curvature to the bottom for the parts that they sit in. we're only going to take that out so far before we meet the top section of teeth. And then we'll have a little bit of a tooth right there for the turn. Okay, I'm going to take this out. And again, we're just following the curve of the maxilla and the mandible there. Take that back, and we'll do more molar right here. Okay, so that we have our skull in here, I do want to make a slight adjustment. Okay, I want to bring the jawline down somewhere, just so our head doesn't look so squished. And then like right when we get into this area is where we want that curve back. Okay, so as we take that back, kind of have that little tiny bit of an overlap right there. And that'll give us more of a skull shape. Let's see, in hindsight, let's bring it down a little bit more. See what that looks like. And then come down here. Extend that part of the jaw out just a little bit more. I think that's honestly good enough for now. Now, what I want to do next is I want to take the crow and start kind of sketching that out. They have it sitting on top. So let's start thinking about foot. Have that kind of curve. We'll just have that be there for a placeholder right now for the leg. Okay, and we want to bring our leg shape out. Hopefully I can fit it all in there. If I can't, what I'll do is I'll just erase it and we'll just deal with the skull. So I want him to kind of look out and away. So that's why I'm taking it the direction that I am. Okay, we want to kind of give ourselves a beak shape. And we want that to kind of round. We want that to kind of round back a little bit. Now it's not looking like much right now, just because we're just trying to get the shape in there. Let's see. Just trying to get everything line up with the wings on here. Just to see if it'll fit. Kind of build up this other side. Just trying to get this tail in here. See what it looks like. Like I said, we may have to scrap the bird. As much as I don't want to, may not be able to fit it all in here, but we'll see. So we got our top area here. I'm trying to show some separation. Maybe that'll help a little. Get some of the eye in here. Take our beak back. Kind of round that off. Okay, and then see if we can shape this head a little better. So we might be able to work with that. We'll work with that for now. You want the second leg start coming out. And we'll just have it like sit on top. But we're going to go ahead and start with the shading aspect of this. Okay, so we're going to start down here with the skull first. So little things I want to do is I want to get, and this is just me, this is my personal preference. I want the way I like to work dark and then work out to light. Okay, so like certain areas that you know are heavily defined, right? You know, with the turn of the face or the shape. Like down here in this area is a huge rounded turn. I like to make sure that those lines are nice and dark, as well as certain areas where the shadows hit to keep it nice and thick. So I'll start that way and then build my way out from there. Okay, so other areas would be like right here inside the skull. With the eye socket, I know that those areas are going to be the darkest. So I am just really just going to fill those in with a black color. Because what we're doing is we're now working with shape and form to render our image. Okay, so we're trying to really build it out. So I'm just kind of darkening again those lines that I know are going to be super dark, and just kind of filling it in from there. Okay, I think we want a little concaveness going, so I'm just going to kind of add little shape like that coming out. And then same thing, you know, with the skull itself, we want to give it a little bit of a ridge line right here on the eye. So I'm really going to take that and come around and kind of help with the brow portion of the eye right there. It just gives a little bit more dimension to it. That way this piece can come out a little bit more. So from here, I can blend it out lighter. So I am not pressing down as hard before as I was with the black. And I'm building it out with the skull. But in order to get that blend, you have to kind of go back over certain areas. And this is, of course, without, you know, smoothing or smudging. We're just kind of building it out to a point where you could come in like this. You could hatch if you wanted to. That'd be a choice up to you. You can hatch that in and then cross hatch those certain areas. Again, going back over it to smooth it, at least to a point of where it kind of blends from one side to another. So like down in here, we're going to want to keep building out. So like I'm going to do some longer hatches here. And again, I want to smooth out from those darkest points. Okay. Building that out at least to here. So I'm just working my way out from those edges. You can see how it's a little bit darker in here in these areas too. And then we get lighter as we come out this way towards the nose. Okay. So now I've built up that eye. Certain areas like down in here, probably want a little bit of a darker patch to kind of show that socketed down in there. And then we want to work in different things that come up here to this point from the nose. So like where this comes back here and comes up, we have a slight, like almost bow bend or brow bend. So that gets a little bit darker from there. Okay. And again, I'm just going to kind of hatch out and build out from there. Trying to keep it all somewhat even. So like these areas here, I'm going to blend out dark but then get light as I come back out again with the eye. Okay. But then right in here, you know, certain parts of the nose, we're going to have a lighter shading tone that comes out. So it's not that it's completely white, it's just a lighter tone and a softer light that's hitting it from that area. Okay, so like even down in here, we still have the brow itself. So like I can lightly, and I'm barely touching the paper, I can lightly shade that part in, do some lighter hatching this way up to the brow. Okay, and just keep building that out from there. And sometimes it can help if you want to, give yourself a guide for your shadow. You can lightly sketch those areas out. To bring those up to a point to where you can, tell what areas are going to be darker. So like this is going to be kind of like a dark gray up here in this area. Then again, lightly hatching out. With our spacing right in there. So like these areas here where the ridge is turning, those are going to be darker. All the way over here, at least until the edge. So again, they're not going to be black. It'll just be kind of like more of a dark gray tone to it. And then even areas like right in here, before we finish the rest of it, we can come in and get our other eye socket shape constructed. Really darken out those areas down here towards the bottom, much like we did over here. And any place where it's like kind of got the overhang here on the side. And then we just smooth that out the same way we did with the eye before. You just kind of work your way out into a lighter eye socket portion. So keep going over it until you get it to a point where it's more of a smooth blend. Okay. And then just for like these areas here where our sun is hitting, it's going to be a little bit of a darker shade. Okay. So it's not black. But we are coming in here and making the ridge line darker down to a point. And then like right here on the edge, leave a little bit of that a little lighter. Okay, so we kind of have that built up, and we're just going to keep working our way out. You want to add little things in here too to kind of help sell it, so like little cracks in the nose. Little things that can help give it a little bit more definition in there, so that when you have your lighter shading come down this way, it has a reason and purpose for it. Okay, so now that we're down here by the nose, I am going to go ahead and build that up. We're going to do like kind of like what we did with the eye. I'm going to come out here and build up our darkest portions. I have a little bit of some cracked bone. And then down in here inside the nose, we want that little bit of a ridge on there. So we're going to go ahead and just kind of define that edge, then have some separation down here as we get to the nose on the bottom of the nasal cavity down here. Okay, and then again I'm going to smooth those out by working from dark to light as I come my way out. So go over it as many times as you need to blend and smooth it out. So like even in here, probably darken a little bit more. Right? And then down here on the nose, we do want like some separation here with some lightness, just to show the turn of the nasal cavity. Okay, so we can see how that's built. A little bit of a reflection coming in on that part of the nose. And again, that's going to help us build up that shape and that form that we need on there. Okay, so like these outer edges here, you know, we can add again some more like cracked look to it. But this will just all be, since it's farthest facing away, it'll just be hatched in, because that's just how that light is going to sit in there. Same thing with our nose here. Let's clean up this backside area like that. Okay. Now we're going to come in. What I'm doing is I'm slowly working my way to the shadow in this area. So what I want to do is I want to come in and thicken up this line here, give it some definition. Okay, because we want to start making this maxillae shape. So what we'll do with that is we have that line work that comes in there, and then again we can have a slow blend out to a point. We have a little bit of shadow in there. Okay, same on the teeth, or at least that tooth right there. But we want to have, like right in here where this fold over is, we want that shadow to cast down close to that line work. Right in there. And then from here we can come out and work the shape of the jaw itself. Okay, so working, or not the jaw, but the maxilla. Come in here and we can give a lighter shadow take. For these parts on the front side of the face with the teeth. And what that'll do is that'll help us build out some shapes here to really help sell like the ridges of it and the actual folds in the maxilla to help shape the mouth. So you can see how that's kind of working that out. And that's why I wanted to work this area first, because you'll see as we come back, we're going to start building up into a more shadowed area, right? So again, we have another dark spot here. that we're going to want to build up. Okay, so you can see how that's kind of slowly giving our skull some shape and form here. Again, I can kind of ease my way out with a little bit of a lighter tone. So it's still dark, it's just not black. Work my way out to here with that. Okay, and then the next thing I can do is we can start working these in-betweens with the teeth. Making sure that those lines, now notice I'm not coming down here and doing it, I'm just sticking to the line work in the midsection, because those folds and turns are what's going to give us our darkest shadow in there. And then you can just come through on all the teeth, because it's going to be an old skull. And honestly, just make those. Maybe put a little groove in right here. But yeah, we can make those lighter as we come out. Leave a little bit of a reflection in there. Just to get some light on the teeth itself. Again, it's not black on the teeth. And if you wanted to, you could go a little bit lighter if you wanted. But I'm going to leave that little bit of a shine on there. Especially like right down in here on the big turn with this front tooth. Leave a little bit on there. Now again, you could leave them more white. They don't have to be. You can see how I'm doing this tooth down here. I don't have to be completely dark gray. So I'm going to do these two sets of teeth a little bit different from each other, just so that you can see which color option you want to pick, whether you want it to be lighter or darker. It really makes no difference, just depends on the look that you're going for with your teeth. Okay, so that takes care of that region right there. What we want to do is this bridge line here along the jaw. I want to kind of leave that open, so you could leave a little trail like this, so you know not to shade that in, or you could just erase that out later. But what we want to try to do is down in here have a lighter shade. As we work our way towards the front part of the jawline. Okay. And these back areas over here, so like I can leave this kind of top a little bit more light, but as I work over here to the front, I want to start doing some things that are going to help define the shape of the skull. So again, I don't want this area to be black per se. I just want it to be a dark enough color that we can have a difference between our lightest tone and our darkest tone. So we're just going to shade that in. And we can darken the back edge line like that. Okay, so we're pulling our light in, and we want some shadow, especially from down here at this point, from where the this place, see how it's like passing over in front of the jaw. We want to kind of do that same thing where we leave some light here for the ridge. So let's erase that back and add like a curve to it. There, so we know not to touch this area. So this little spot right here that we've just drawn out. Now this piece here inside the mouth will be completely black. The only reason this part won't is that's part of the back side of the skull, so we need to have a little bit of shape and form to that. Okay, but like I was saying, we can now come in here with that same blend. Right here on the edge. Right? And then as we move out from this area, we want to kind of have some darkness in here. And we're slowly building that out as well. So here on this top side, have a little bit more darkness. Probably darken that edge a little bit right there, just so we have that separation from the back part of the skull. But I do want to come in here though, and we do want to shade that in. Okay, so we know it's a separate piece by how it's not as dark as the rest of the image. Okay, so we have our piece that comes out this way. Like that. Have that kind of connect right here. Again, we want this area to be open and clear with light on it, so I can just erase that piece out in that area. Maybe work it a little bit closer to the edge. And then as for the rest of it, we want some dark spots. And this is where the whole thing doesn't have to be solid. We want some dark spots in here just to give a sense of indentations and imperfections. Right, so little dents that could possibly be in the skull itself, little ridge lines that could be folding under from it, right? And since this is a piece that is touching the ground, is our mandible right here, the bottom part of our jaw. We do want to have darkness down there to show that it's sitting on the ground and casting a shadow. Okay, so you can see how that's kind of detailed that out, right? Now another thing we want is another really light coat. Okay, so if you notice, I'm going to turn my pencil completely sideways, and this will work with a regular pencil too. But I'm going to very, very lightly come in here and shade that in. Okay, so it's super light. Okay, now certain areas I want to keep white again because I want that reflection to be on there, but only to a certain point. Okay, but I want that to be really light in comparison. Okay, so this area here, I actually want to keep it white. Okay, just to add that little bit of bounce light in there. And we can thicken up this edge. Down here we want to give it, again, another look like it's casting its shadow on the ground. So I'm going to go ahead and make that shadow nice and dark right there. Maybe have it fade with some hatching right there, just to give it a little bit more depth on that. Okay, so now we can get to that fold that I was talking about. We want to kind of leave, let's bring out some little bit of darkness here. We want to kind of leave that kind of like a bounce light here. So we're going to take that out and leave that be. But then certain areas where we talked about like the dark spots, so let's go ahead and kind of establish that in there. Okay, and then we're going to take this out. So you see I've made that dark. It's not black. Again, it's kind of more like a dark gray. Then I'm going to have like a certain little bit of a lighter blend out. Come out here on the tooth here. Okay. And again, we want to leave some areas super light before working back to darker areas, just to kind of get a little bit more balance in there. Okay. So like in here, I'm going to build out more darker shadow. Again, not black, just more of like a dark gray. And we can have those help us create the different shapes on the skull itself. Okay, so just using that to our advantage. To help us get more shape to the front part of our skull and the cheek line here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and lightly at least fill in this region, just so that I know that that's my region with the cheek curve in there. But then what I want to do is come back to certain areas where the curve is actually happening and where the light is folding in. I want to darken those areas, again, to just kind of help bring out and sell what it is that we're doing. So like in here, we want to kind of smooth blend that out. So I'm going to kind of work from dark to light again on that, just kind of build it up. And if you notice, I just have my pencils just constantly moving to just keep the blend going. Okay, and then out here in this area, we can add a really light shading up to a point about right here on the nose. Again, because we want to kind of help show the turns and divots into the things that make up our skull. Okay, So you can see how that's kind of starting to come alive a little bit, building it out section by section, right? So little places like right in here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to erase out a little bit. Maybe bring that curve up. I'm going to leave that area white, as well as, you know, like up and through here. We'll start a light shading pattern. That runs up to the ridge right here. So just like we did down here with the jaw, just going to make this a light shading pattern right down in here. And a lot of it too has to go with your own sensibilities too. You should be able to look at it and just tell whether, you know, it's looking good, whether something needs to be added or taken away. Okay, but what that does is that'll allow us to have this ridge separation here set up. So we want that to have like a white gap between that, but this whole area down here, we can actually come through and go ahead and give that same light shading to it. While leaving that area white close to the bridge. So let's kind of close that down though. More like that. And we'll open that up. And then again to a point, we're going to take that out. Now again, don't get frustrated if you're following this right now and it's just not looking the same. Finish the project. Practice it. Find your own skulls to draw. Maybe watch the video again and try to see how much better you get with each try. But you can't just come in here and just dominate the first image. I'm going to put some very light line hatch shading right here. On the bottom. Okay, so now we're getting to the point where we got to start building this back part of the skull. So I'm going to build this out a little bit more into a rounder shape and define that out. Now from here, I want to have some light reflection in here. So I'm going to leave this open and not touch that. The rest of it, we're going to build our way out. Same way we did with like the eyes and stuff. We're going to have some shadows that are darker than others, just to kind of show definition. Okay, so we're just going to keep working our way out to a point. Again, if you want to, you can kind of help sketch your own line work out to kind of show your eyes where your shadows are going to go. There's nothing wrong with that. It just kind of gives you a guideline. Okay, so this is going to be a much larger area to fill in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of start building up those areas that I know are going to have the darker shadow to it. And try to smooth blend those in. And as you can tell, we are now 55 minutes into this video. So realistic artwork definitely takes time. You definitely have to have patience for it, and you definitely need to take breaks. Don't just come in here drawing a realistic image and think you just gotta go hardcore all the way to the end. You can if you want to. I mean, heck, if you love the process, stick with it, keep going. But it does take time. It's not something that can just be, just knocked out real quickly, especially without time and practice, and you're just kind of starting to learn. It's gonna take time. Okay. So for those of you that have stuck with this so far, I greatly appreciate it. A lot of people are gonna go, "What? A couple hours?" And that's why we may just get rid of the bird and leave the skull. Just because it's gonna be a really long video if I do the bird too. So maybe we'll do a crow another time just by itself. But you can see how I'm kind of soft blending this out. So I'm picking my colors from black to dark gray to kind of like a mid-tone gray and having it fade out. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and make that executive decision right now. I'm going to get my big eraser, and hopefully you have sketched lightly, just like I did, so that you can easily take the bird out of the equation. Just kind of sketch back your lines for the skull. We're going to come in here and just get rid of our bird. Like I said, we'll do like a realistic animal or something next time. But I just really, just because I'm so used to drawing stylized and cartoons all the time, you kind of tend to forget how long a realistic image can take. And like I said, I'm not trying to drown anybody out with a 2.5 hour video, hour and a half, however long it takes. So we'll just stick with what we got on here. Okay. So again, I want to kind of build out this area. And we're just kind of smooth blending it out. To a point. So you can see how now we have that kind of concaveness to the skull. We have this part of our jaw here. Right? So as that comes out, we want to kind of bulk out this shadow. Again, not black, just more of like a dark gray, and have that come out. And then we can leave some areas a little bit lighter than others. Just to give us a little bit of a change of direction. In our shape and form in here, okay? So much like I did with this jawline here, I'm going to go very lightly. And I do mean very lightly. Barely touching the paper. Filling that in. Bring that shadow out just a little bit more there. Okay? And that's another reason it's kind of easy to start with skulls. And I'm doing a lighter shade right here. It just makes it easier. So let's do, like, you can see I'm just using my fingertips here. We're just gonna lightly fill in this back area of the skull. reason why we'll do that light first is just in case we want any reflection points, it'd be easier to erase out and work around. Okay, so we don't want this huge difference gap between the dark shading and going into the light. So what we'll do is we'll build out a little bit more from the jaw here. Again, putting a little bit more pressure than that last go. And I'm just going over it several times until I get a nice blend out. Okay, so you can see now it has a little bit better transition. I can come in here, put a few extra hatch lines to kind of blend that out towards the top of the skull. Okay, so now we have this whole dome section still open up here. Okay, so what you want to be careful is, like, see, I'm getting this stuff on my hands and kind of spreading it to the paper. It kind of gives it a cool look, honestly, when you're done. But for now, we want to finish out the skull first. So we're going to kind of come up to here. And again, if you want to build out a little bit of a ridge, so you know that what shape your shadow is taking. There is nothing wrong or against the rules with doing that. Okay, so I got myself another kind of like ridge bump here, and we're going to kind of match this color tone right here. So kind of a dark gray-ish color. And we're just going to build that out. Go over as needed. If certain areas need more of a workover, you can do it that way. But like I said, even though I'm not working from an actual skull, you, on the other hand, can, by just looking up, like, just type in black and white photos of skulls, and you'll be able to see all that shadow and start looking at how the light casts on it, because the only way you're actually going to get better at it and be able to do stuff, I'm going to darken up this ridge line here. It's just studying it. Yeah, I mean, honestly, you just got to figure out how light works by working that way with it. Okay, I'm going to come in here and put that light tone going across the skull to a point. So we reach out here, and we'll put a few lines like that. Okay. Again, we have our turning line here, so I want a little bit of light starting to form down in this area. So we're going to leave a little bit of an opening here for reflection. So I'm just barely touching the paper, adding a little bit more shadow depth to it. So just studying the light, seeing how it hits, different variations of your tones for your grays and stuff like that. That'll help you start seeing how things should form if realism is your goal. And even this will carry over into other things like drawing cartoons, things like that. All that'll still play into effect. I'm going to add a very light tone across this top ridge here. But yeah, it'll help out, and you'll see how much it works out for you in the end. Okay, so now I want to be careful because I want to have that reflection on the top of the dome, but the way that the light is hitting all this, we got to carry it over at least from this section. So it might help if we put a few hatching lines and build off of that there. And again, just blend that out and filling it in. Okay, so you can see how we don't have a lot of line definition up here towards the top, and that's just because it's catching more light. So we're not really going to get that edge line like you would think. Now down here towards the bottom, we could bring that shadow out some, just so again it looks like it's sitting on the ground. So the way that we can do that is now we can take that and build that out. So see how I'm just kind of following the edge of my skull. I'm barely putting any pressure. I'm just hatching it all the way towards the front, just to give the illusion that it is sitting on the ground. And I can just carry that over to this side like that. And then if you wanted to give it one more pass right here closer to your edge by putting a little bit more pressure, what that'll do is you can see how that's darkening it some. Think of it almost like cross hatching. I'm going back over it again to just give it more depth. Okay. Let's take that out. Like I said, I'm sorry I wasn't able to get the bird in there. I don't want to make these videos too long because I know how hard it can be to pay attention for 2 hours straight. Even in school and art class, you get a little bit of a break from it, right? So that's going to do it for our Monday art lesson on realism and drawing a skull. If you liked what you saw and you stuck around, leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. If you want to see more videos like this, share, subscribe, like the video as it'll help out. If you want to see more realism, let me know in the comments. Other than that, keep sketching, keep practicing, and I will see you all in the next one. All right? Bye.